Hello, hello, hello. So today, me and SATs are going to be going over the first look of the Thor and Messina. These ships will be entering testing in patch 14.10. They're currently on the public test server for testing, and they'll be moving over to the main server for testing in patch 14.10. So all the ships that are being shown today are still under testing. So the stats are going to be showing today are still they're still subject to change. So let's get started. The first ship we're going to talk about is going to be the Tier 9 Italian cruiser, the Messina. This ship here has a 25 millimeter bow, 50 millimeter armor section there. Deck is 27 millimeters, 25 millimeter aft with a little armor section there as well. Side plating is 150 meters. Let's take a look of the ship real quick. Here's the front. Here's the side. Take a look at the rear here. Very nicely done. I like the hull. Very nice. Looks really good. Okay. So that is the Messina. So the citadel on this ship is quite high, unfortunately. So, yeah. You show your broadside, you're gonna get absolutely depth struck. So, yeah, definitely be careful there. For survivability, you have a 43,600 HP. About average for a tier 9 cruiser. 19 millimeter armor. Sorry, 19 millimeter. Sorry, 19% torpedo protection. My bad. For the guns, you get 952 millimeter guns. You get 2 turrets in the front with 2 in the rear. Reload is 8 seconds with dispersion of 149 and a maximum range of 16.8 kilometers. You do only get sap shells, so there is no HE or AP on this ship. You only get sap. It has 42 millimeters of pen, do 3,850 damage with a 945 second shell speed. So pretty fast shells on this ship. For torpedoes, you get 4 per side with over a 2-minute reload with a 8-kilometer range. But they do pack a punch with a 20,000 damage. The torpedoes are right here on the side, right here. For airstrikes, you get 7 kilometers for the airstrikes, but you get 2 of them with a 30-second reload. The anti-air is quite surprising on this ship. Even though it is 5.2 kilometers, the ship does get 10 flak clouds for clapbursts, which is one of the strongest flak bursts for tier 9, by the way. Really, really strong. For the long range anti-air, it is 238 continuous damage, and within 3.5, it goes to 347. So this ship is going to have the strongest anti-air for the Italians. Even though it is 5.2, anything in that 5.2 is going to be hurting. For the ship speed, it has a 38.9 knot speed with the flag. It's an Italian, pretty speedy. 680 meter turning radius, really good turning radius for a tier 9. The 10.5 second reload, rudder shift. It's about average for the tier. For the concealment, when it's built, it goes to 11.3 kilometers. It's pretty okay for a cruiser. When you put it in for its gimmick, which it has an exhaust smoke, which is typical for the Italians, but it also has a 6-kilometer hydro. I believe if I'm wrong, SAT, but I think this is the first ship to have 6-kilometer hydro that's not German. Is that correct?
Second for the Italians.
Oh, second.
The Yeah, the Italians have the Gorizia.
That's true. But yeah, so this is the second ship to get 6-kilometer hydro that's not German. So that's super cool. So you have that exhaust smoke, which is really useful to be able to shoot while you're kind of kiting away or you're pushing in. You have that hydro to help spot torpedoes or help spot ships that are hiding in smoke. So really good in that regard. Your smoke fire penalty is 7.7 kilometers. So you're able to kind of push in, use that smoke to be able to fire as you're leaving, and then you can use those 8-kilometer torpedoes to kind of kite away with as you're cutting away. And if you feel like kind of using that hydro to push toward destroyers, you can do that as well. So I think the ship overall could do as the stats are showing, it could do kind of a good job of kind of support destroyers early on. If it does get spotted though, it can kind of use that smoke to leave. And then when you're able to build into the smoke, you could probably get to about a minute. And if you have the legendary commander as well, you can get even longer. So I think this is going to be a good support cruiser to help out destroyers in the early match. And since the range is shorter, you're going to have to kind of stay a little bit closer. So that exhaust smoke would definitely help you as well. Since you can get more of them, you can use Superintend to get 3 total. So that'll be really nice. It does get a spotter plane as a fighter as well, which can be used to spot while it's in smoke. So it's very useful if you're trying to sneak up on somebody where you have down to shoot. You can use the fighter to kind of get a proxy of where exactly they are. But how do the stats look for the Mezzanine to you, their SAT?
So Messina uses the Amalfi hull, the Tier 8 Italian heavy cruiser hull.
Hmm.
After playing that, I mean, it's not that sturdy. It does take citadels distressingly frequently, but it's not like a pushover kind of hull. Messina pretty much uses the same exact hull, which is not really great for a tier 9 because the firepower is increased, but your survivability not so much.
Hmm.
You're going to be relying a lot on using smoke and that heal to really get you out of trouble.
Yep.
The turning radius is a bit on the smaller end, so you can try to juke enemies if you can't use your smoke, but you really do have to be careful about your citadel. The way Wargaming advertises the ship, you're supposed to be playing more at mid-range. That sap only firepower is kind of a problem because if the enemies is even remotely broadside, it's fine, but the penetration isn't very good. It's 42 millimeters, and if the enemy is bow in or stern in, then you're doing almost 0 damage. So you do get torpedoes for just in case, but that's 8 kilometers, and that requires you to get uncomfortably close in a cruiser that's prone to exploding.
Hmm.
So I don't see this working very well against larger ships like battleships or even some of the more heavily armed cruisers. It's just because your firepower output against anything with relatively heavy armor is very suspect. But against destroyers, this thing will be very good because
Hmm.
the guns, they look promising at least on paper. Destroyers are just going to eat sap damage no matter what, and they can't really fight you, and they probably can't even torp you given that amazing hydro. That's kind of so basically it seems to be more geared for anti-destroyer or anti-light cruiser kind of combat. You can deal with the light ships pretty well, but anything heavier and well, you're gonna have to get lucky, very lucky.
Hmm.
We'll see what Wargaming does though, because those are pretty significant drawbacks. So I wonder if they're going to start tweaking some of the stats. And we also don't know how well the guns perform ballistics wise. If the shells are pretty floaty and Messina is forced to get closer to do damage, that would be another big problem because, as I said, Amalfi Hall is not terribly survivable. So if you're forced to get closer, that just gives the enemy more chances to just dev strike you off the map. So I wonder if Wargame is going to make any changes, or if this is a high risk, high reward kind of ship.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll have to see once it goes through the testing process. So moving on from the Messina, we'll be moving on to the Thor. But before we go to the Thor, we need to look at the 2 ships that are new models for the line. So the Thor is the tier 10 of the new European battleship line that's being introduced at some point. They're going to the public testing in 14, so regular server testing in 14.10. So the tier 8, the tier 9, and the tier 10 are all new models in World of Warships. The tier 7 and below are models that already exist in the game. So let's look at those real quick. So this is the tier 8 model, as you can see here. You have the guns at the front here, you have the bow, you have the side. I do like this. I like the tier 8 model really well. I like it a lot. I like how the torpedoes are in the side of the hull right there. I like how the anti-air turrets look, all the guns. It just looks really good to me. So I think it's very well done. Superstructure looks really nice as well. The armor for the tier 8, you can see right here, 32. 50 here. Side armor is 50. 280, 220. So this is the tier 8 with the 19 millimeter superstructure. Citadel is waterline. So that is the Citadel there. But yes, we're only going to be showing these briefly because we'll be focusing on the Thor. So moving on to the tier 9, this thing has a a very massive superstructure. It's basically like a sand crawler from Star Wars is what it kind of looks like. That thing is massive. Yeah, really,
Kind of
really big.
reminds me of the Enigheten.
Yeah, it does. It is really, really big. So yeah, it does. Yeah, it does remind of the Enigheten. Because there, for the Enigheten, there was the memes of being a star destroyer. Yeah, that was the meme for that one. So let's take a look at the ship real quick. So here's the front. There's the guns. There's that massive superstructure. You can see the torpedoes on the side there. Good looking there. Funnel. We'll go into the rear. All looks absolutely gorgeous. Beautifully done. You got the lifeboats on the ship. But overall, very beautiful looking ship. Very done by World of Warships. All right, so
It just seems the theme of the line is like all kind of blocky because the turrets kind of look pretty large and blocky, especially if you look at the Enlighten.
yeah, you can see like the block feel of the turrets if you look at it. Very, 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 very blocky. So 32 millimeter bow, deck is 40, side plating is 70, 220, 300 for the Citadel plating. Rear is about the same for the, it's pretty much the same as the front armor. The Citadel is waterline. So for the tier 9 and 10, all the Citadels is waterline, so that's pretty good. The ships do not get a turtle back. Wait, do they? I'm gonna look real quick. No, they do not. No, no turtle backs. Okay. So that is the tier 9, so we can call this one the Sand Crawler. All right, moving on to the tier 10, and this is where we're going to be going and talking about, like, the whole line itself and, like, the whole gimmicks of the line. So this is the Thor, the champion of the European battleship line. Let's take a look at the ship itself. This is the bow, the guns, keeping that blocky feel, superstructure. It's got Friesland guns on here. It's got torpedoes on the side there. Looking at the rear, very nice, very nice. Very nice indeed, very nice. Beautiful. All done wargaming. All right. So let's take a look at this armor. So you have a 32 millimeter bow, little armor section of 40 right there. Deck armor is 40. In the torpedo bay area, it is 40. On the sides, it is 70. That also includes in the areas where it is like goes into the whole area. That is also 70. The rear is also 32. Side armor plating is 350. So that is the same for both sides. So 350s. The Citadel is waterline as well. And the upper armor is 40. Sorry, this is for 80 here on the top of the Citadel. And then again, the deck is 40 as well. So that is the armor of the Thor. For survivability, this ship has 72,700 HP. Very low for a tier 10 battleship. Very low. With a 21 torpedo protection as well. You're going to have to
Also
be very
very low for a
careful.
battleship.
Yeah, you're going to have to be very careful when playing this thing. And you'll be seeing why the ship has these later on. You'll be seeing why.
Also, it looks like they get a standard repair party, so that's even worse since you pretty much don't have much in terms of survivability.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on is to the guns. So you get 9 406 millimeter guns, 2 turrets in the front, 1 in the rear. Secondaries. Oh, sorry, the guns also have a 30-second reload with a 40-second turret diverse. It gets AP and HE. So 3,600 damage for the AP. HE is 5,700. Pretty good damage for the AP. HE, about average for the gun caliber. Gun range is 21.7 kilometers. But also, something to note is that shell speed. One of the fastest shell speeds in the game for battleships, 900 meters per second. That is really fast for a battleship. That was really, really, really fast. Let's use like a Slava as an example. So for a Slava, What is your shell speed, Mr. Slava? Where are
It
you?
should be about 900 as well.
Oh, I don't have it for some reason. Where
I'll
is it?
go look it up here really quickly. If we go look at AP shells, the fastest would be Slava at 870.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's even faster than the Slavas? Damn.
Yes, but the big reason why Slava's shells travel so fast is because they have literally no drag.
Mm-hmm.
We do not know the drag coefficient for Thor's shells, so that will have to wait until she enters testing, and then we can pull it up on ship tools.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool, Leos. But yeah, fastest shells in the game as of now, but we'll have to see throughout the testing process. For the torpedoes, you get 16 torpedoes with a 100-second reload. Ooh, that's a lot of torpedoes. They get a 12-kilometer range with 17,500 damage, 70 knot speed with a 1.5-kilometer detection. These torpedoes are not like the regular European torpedoes. These have higher damage with slower speed, and they're also shorter range torpedoes as well.
Well, quote unquote slower speed. Those
Mm-hmm.
still outrun gearing torps.
Mm-hmm. And those are a lot of torpedoes as well. Getting 16, you got 8 per side. That's a lot of torpedoes. Mm-hmm. So moving on from that, we get 11-kilometer depth charges. You get 2 charges for them. All right, so that's typical for a tier 10 battleship. Now, anti-air, this is where it gets a little spicy. You do get a 6-kilometer range for the anti-air, and for the flak, you get 14 flak clouds, by the way. Woo! That is the highest flak number in the game, by the way. And this is not built. This is just base. So this thing is going to be oof. Dutch planes. I think like with this number of flak, the Dutch planes are going to be in major trouble trying to hit this thing because the Dutch
Hmm.
planes are very weak against the flak. Versus continuous anti-air, it's fine, but against flak, oof, they just get deleted.
Oh, yeah.
And any CV as well. This number of flak would just chew through any planes. Poor FDRs, man. Poor FDRs.
Even against good players, that's 14 flak, and that's base. So I think even the good players are going to struggle to try and find a gap where they can try and torp Thor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it might be to the point where you can't realistically hit Thor without losing a ton of planes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all because of those beautiful Friesland turrets. All those beautiful, beautiful guns. So for the continuous anti-air, it's also strong as well. You get 419, you get 419 continuous damage for the long, and the short, which starts at 4 kilometers, you get 508. Let me double check if the flag is on. Okay, so the flag is on. So flag off, it is 399 and then 484. With the flag on, it goes to 508 and then 419. So very strong anti-air. I think this is going to be the strongest anti-air battleship in the game. If that doesn't have DFAA, if it's DFAA, then of course Vermont's going to be the strongest in that. But just those that number of flak clouds, man. Like Jesus Christ, that is so many.
Hmm.
And I'm not complaining at all. Yeah, I hope that stays through the entire testing process, please. Thank you. So the maneuverability, you get a 34.7 knot speed. That is with the speed flag. Without it is 33. You get an 840 turning radius with a 16.2 rudder shift. So the ship is pretty fast for a tier 10 battleship. 840 meter turning radius is also really good as well. The rudder shift, though, that's pretty bad. That's a pretty bad rudder shift. But the ship is fast with a good turning radius. And with the concealment, it gets 11.8 kilometer concealment when built, which is a really good concealment for a tier 10 battleship. Now here comes the lovely gimmicks of this ship, the lovely gimmicks of the line. So starting at tier 8 and above, the ship gets a 10-kilometer radar. It has a 30-second action time with a 2-minute cooldown. So yeah, this is the first tech tree battleship to get radar. So that has now entered the game. So battleship radar. I remember back when the Missouri only had a radar, and then you get like the Constellation, then the Rhode Island, and now the Thor.
Borodino.
Yep, yep, Borodino, and now you got the Thor. Well, tier 8 above Thor. All right, now what else is special about this line is that it gets a special emergency engine power ship consumable. So it gets an extra 25% speed boost for a total of 135 seconds, which you can toggle on and off. You have, since it's 135 seconds and you have a minimum usage of 15 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. So theoretically, you can use this a maximum of about 9 times if you activate it and deactivate it 9 times. So you activate it and keep it on exactly for the 15 seconds, turn it off, you get about 9 uses out of it. So if you do the math with the speed, so say you build brisk on this thing, right? So you build brisk. 10%, so 33, you go up to 34.7, then you have like a 36, 37 knot speed, and then you add this in there. This goes about 40-ish knots, like 40 or 41-ish knots. So this is a really fast battleship for tier 10. And with that great concealment, it's going to make it really stealthy as well. So the overall play style this kind of feels like, it feels like more of like a mid-range battleship, unless there's a CV in the match. You're going to have to be more passive. You can use that really good concealment to kind of get a little close, kind of mid-ranges, like 12, 13 kilometers-ish. Try to either do a sneak attack to help kind of like support your destroyer. Use that radar to help out if there's smoke. And you can use your speed boost to quickly turn out, exit as quickly as you can, and then deactivate the speed boost to kind of save it for later. It's definitely, I feel like this line's gonna be more of a high skill level line because again, you don't get a lot of HP to play with, so you can definitely not stay for long term engagement. So you're kind of getting in and getting out really fast. So I feel it's gonna be more of like a support battleship kind of. I don't know how to word this. Like a support battleship, or essentially you're playing like a giant cruiser where you can't stay for long engaged like a regular battleship. If you do, you're just dead instantly. Because it seems like more like a support platform. You got strong anti-air, you got radar, but you can't stay for long engagements. What are your thoughts on the stats?
So the stats are okay. So I think you're right on the play style. It is looks to be more of like a large cruiser kind of play style. You have your HP is pretty bad for a battleship, but for compared to say like Stalingrad or Marseille, it's actually kind of respectable.
Mm-hmm.
You also have utility, which typically you don't see in a battleship, like radar.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like more of a large cruiser that just happens to be classified as a battleship and gains access to the battleship skill tree. Big advantage, of course, is fire prevention, but that does mean you don't get certain other things like heavy AP, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the cruiser one heavy AP, you can take it and there's no drawback. Here, it will cost you some fire damage.
Mm-hmm.
As for the stats, though, the survivability is easily going to be the worst part about Thor. Your HP pool's pretty low. You can't really take any torps, and you don't have a good heal to save you. Just a standard heal. And I don't see anything that stands out among the armor scheme. If anything, it's actually not very good. 40mm is easily penetratable by anything with 50mm pen or above. And even IFHE cruisers can actually just chomp through the 40mm, like IFHE Salem if someone takes it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you go down to the guns, well, we'll have to see the ballistics of it, but on paper, it doesn't actually look very good. If you compare it to Montana, for instance, then Montana has a heavier broadside weight. It will likely have much better accuracy because it gets the American accuracy module instead of the reload.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, And then the damage, of course, the shells are actually slightly more per shell, but not to a significant degree. So it doesn't have a good broadside weight either. And also, it doesn't have as much overmatch. Tier 10 cruisers typically carry 30 millimeters of armor, and Thor can't punch through that. So that's a kind of significant knock on it as well. What you do get is torpedoes, which is a little bit more situational than expected. It only goes out to 12 kilometers, so you can technically stealth torp, but not very comfortably, only when you're kiting.
Mm-hmm.
It can help somewhat in close combat, but Thor doesn't feel like a ship you want to go brawling with, because if a Libertad or a Sleafin just shows up, you're instantly cooked.
Yeah, exactly.
The torps do deal nice damage though.
They do. I feel like the playstyle is what we were saying earlier, where it's more of like a support battleship. It's a weird way to say it, right? But I say this is kind of like a mixture between the Njord and kind of like the Carl in a way, but with more versatility, where you're mostly going to be using AP, but you're going to be kind of trying to be a little bit closer. And then as you're turning out, you use those torpedoes on each side to kind of like as if the enemy tries to push you. So essentially, you go out, you try to radar to catch a destroyer with your destroyer in front of you. As you're turning out, you're going to be launching those torpedoes with a 12-kilometer range. And then, as if the enemy's pushing you, then they'll run into those torpedoes. It's kind of what it feels like. It sounds like it's putting like a few eggs in a few of the baskets. It's got the guns, it's got the torpedoes, and then you can also, your anti-air is also really strong as well. So if your destroyer's near you, it'll be protected by your anti-air as well. The ship also feels like with the radar as well, if you're in a div, essentially you can make yourself a European div. You have this, you have the Savea, and you can run the Gdansk. You just have like an infinite radar train. That would be pretty
Um,
funny to do.
Thor's radar is more for catching out unaware people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the 10-kilometer radar sounds nice, but the surface detection's about 12, so only a unaware destroyer or really bad destroyer is just gonna constantly wander into it.
Or it could
Good
be through an
players will,
island. Or through an island.
yeah, but that's also if it's through an island, it's generally not very efficient.
Mm-hmm. It could be used
So
like, for instance, on like Shatter. If you're like heading toward the middle, you could pop the radar. I mean, you can see where someone is. You could potentially rush them with those torps. Because those torps, like you said,
it's
they do hit really hard.
It is, but you do have to get very close. And by extension, that's more of a gambling tactic.
Mm-hmm.
If the enemies catch you out, and then you don't really have much defense to really help you. You do have a speed boost, but you literally are more using it to dodge or during one final engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Engine boost does affect your acceleration, so if you pop, ideally you'd pop it about maybe 4 or 5 times just so you can accelerate out of the way shells or torpedoes, or maybe one last YOLO push. But unfortunately, it is a strict downgrade from most other speed boosts like Bourgogne or Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to consider, because we do know on the small end that the emergency engine power does affect acceleration a lot. So I was considering that considering that possibly you're not going to build into acceleration in the 4 slot. Theoretically, you could possibly build into the steering to make that rudder shift a little bit more bearable, because that 16.2 second rudder shift is really painful. Like really, really painful if you're trying to like play more like mid-range, where you're trying to turn out or dodge and weave a little bit more. That's really, really painful to have that really bad rudder shift. So I'm interested to see if they keep that rudder shift over time, or if they buff it. We'll have to see over time, because again, all these stats are relative to change, right? So everything we're talking about could easily change. So we're just kind of theory crafting right now on what Wargaming is trying to do with the ship. Because again, they could easily change one thing on this thing and make this the most broken ship in the game, or they could change one thing and make this ship the worst tier 10 in the game. So they kind of have to just, you know, touch a little things here and there and see how it does. So we'll just have to see. But overall, I'm really excited about this line. If you think about an SAT score, we just got the German pocket battleships, right? So those are the
Hmm.
cruisers. And now we get this, which essentially it feels like a battleship. Sorry, it feels like a cruiser and a battleship slot because it like if you just made it a little smaller, it would feel like just a big. It just feel like a big cruiser, like on how the
It pretty much
playstyle
is.
is. I
The
feel,
reason why it's a battleship is mostly because it has 16-inch guns.
yeah.
Everything else, as you said, pretty much screams cruiser.
hmm
Large cruiser specifically.
I think it's also because I think they wanted to have the ship to have fire prevention. That could also be it as well. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm just theory crafting here. I think it's because of the fire prevention. You because you're right about the guns. 406 millimeter guns on a cruiser. That's crazy, right? So
Yeah. Well, people were memeing about Thor having small caliber guns, like Wargame describing it as that. But if you look at her competition, it is kind of true. Her guns are on a lackluster part.
hmm
And like Sleafin has 16-inch guns, for example, but it has battlecruiser accuracy.
yep.
Thor, for what I understand, has the standard battleship dispersion, which is not really great since I don't think its secondaries are anything interesting.
No, they're not. No. They're 7.3 kilometer range and they have a 446 meter dispersion. So
Yeah,
no.
good luck.
Yeah, good luck. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think the most ideal position for Thor is to be out on the flank. Enemies trying to push into it. If destroyers try to push into it, they have to be very careful about her radar. She also has 16 torps, kind of like a torp cruiser that can hopefully damage significant parts of big pushes. And the carrier can't really focus her. They can keep her spotted, but they can't really do too much damage, or otherwise they get their squads wiped.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I feels like Thor is gonna have to slot into a more support cruiser role, which could be hard. Which is a very different approach than compared to a standard battleship line, like a brawler. You go in, you turn on secondaries, you brawl, or a Yamato. You sit in the mid to back range and you just snipe people. But here, you actually have to play more strategically. You need to be in a position where you can try and use your radar to deny enemy movement. You need to be very mindful about your HP because you lose a straight up fight against even most cruisers, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how well will actually function. And also, importantly, you're taking up a battleship slot. So yeah, competitively, it's kind of to be. It's I don't see it really doing too well with the current stats. Like like if I want to play a battleship with radar, why not just take Rhode Island? Because Rhode Island actually has speed, can use it for longer than 2 seconds. The guns still hit pretty hard. It can use HE. It has a much better heal,
Mm-hmm.
and torps are RNG, so we can throw that out anyways.
Yep.
So I wonder if Thor might end up getting some buffs just because. I mean, if you look at Rhode Island, I'm more favor of Rhode Island just because I feel like it's more consistent overall. We'll see. We'll see what changes Thor gets as she goes through the testing process, though.
Yep. So thank you so much for your time today, SAT. We do greatly appreciate you. But yep, that is going to be it for the day. Again, all these ships are subject to change for their stats. So thank you all for watching. If you guys have any questions or concerns, let us know your thoughts as well about these ships. Which ones you're excited for, which ones you aren't. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.